Hello and welcome to my class. Now, in the previous class, I did discuss the topic Moses as a leader. Now, in that module, we extensively looked at the character Moses, how God used him to lead the people of Israel out from their captivity in the land of Egypt. The people of Israel were actually in bondage there in the land of Egypt. So, in this particular module, we will be looking at Joshua as a leader. Joshua as a leader. And we are going to be discussing based on the Bible references we have in Numbers 13, 16 to 33. Then, of course, chapter 14, we looked at 1 to 10, 27, 15 to 23. Then, of course, we also look at the book of Joshua itself. Now, it's important that you note that the topic again is Joshua as a leader. That means Joshua took over leadership from Moses and lead the people of Israel. Now, Joshua is actually the son of a man called Nun, who happens to be among the Hebrew slaves in Egypt that Moses actually led out. Okay, he gave birth to his son and he named him Oshea. And Oshea was Joshua, which means salvation. And Joshua was from the tribe of Ephraim because the father was an Ephraimite. And of course, Joshua was the grandson of Ammihud, and Ammihud was the son of Elishama. You can find that actually in First Chronicles 7:26 to 27. Now, quickly, let's look at the um, objectives to this lesson. Now, let's not forget that Joshua, like I said before, was given birth to in Egypt, all right, in Goen. All right, by the end of this wonderful lesson, you should be able to discuss how and why Joshua succeeded Moses. Then two, you should be able to identify his leadership qualities. Then number three, you should be able as a student to narrate how Joshua led the Israelites, okay, to capture Jericho. Then again, you should be able to also identify the problems of Joshua's, the problem that Joshua encountered, all right, as a leader. Then, of course, lastly, again, we'll also be looking at why Joshua succeeded as a leader. After taking over from Moses, who happens to be his leader, and we'll see why he, the son of Nun, succeeded as a leader. Now, quickly, let's move on. Now, it's important that you know again that Joshua was born as Oshea. That was the name his father gave to him. He was born as Oshea to his father Nun, a member of the tribe of the Ephraimite. Okay, he was born in Egypt in Goen as an Hebrew slave. All right, times were not going well for the slaves when Nun, his father, named his son Goen, meaning salvation. This reflected a hope that God might yet raise a man to save the slaves. All right. After Oshea had grown to be a young man, Moses had returned from his self-imposed exile in Midian, remember, to challenge the Pharaoh as at then and his God. Okay. As Moses was growing old, he prayed to God to appoint a leader to replace him so that Israel would not be without a leader. Okay, the Lord instructed Moses to take Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom was the spirit of leadership, okay, and lay his hand upon him. Then he should let him stand before the priest. The priest here was Eleazar, and of course you can see him there, and that was the priest. God instructed that Moses should take Hoshea, that's Joshua, okay, and lay his hands upon him, and he should be before Eleazar the priest, and of course the entire congregation of Israel. All right, commission him in their presence, and then invest in him some of his authorities, so that all the congregations of Israel would obey him. All right, this was the essence. Okay, this was exactly how Joshua took over the mantle of leadership from uh, Moses. All right, it's important. Now, let's quickly look at the role that Joshua actually played in the story of the 12 spies. Now, remember, Moses selected 12 spies to spy out the land of Canaan. Joshua, son of Nun, was one of them. Okay, they were instructed to find out whether they would be able to conquer it or not. When the spies came back, okay, there was disparity in the report because there was a division among them. Now, the majority report presented by 10 of the spies dismayed the people, and they wished, okay, they could go back to Egypt instead of being consumed by the giants in the land of Canaan. Joshua and Caleb presented the majority or the minority report, sorry, okay, because they were in the minority group. Now, the report was a favorable one, although the people did not believe in it. Now, in their report, they said that the land which they had spied out was a very good land. Okay, if the Lord delighted in them, they would be in the land which they said flowed with milk and honey. Joshua warned them not to rebel against the Lord. He what disabused their minds and cautioned them not to fear the people of the land. He strengthened, okay, their courage that the Canaanite would be like food, that's bread, to them if God was with them. All right, that was exactly what the report of Joshua and Caleb looked like. Now, God commanded to appoint Joshua as Moses' successor because Joshua was valiant and charismatic. Now, he possessed all that a man requires to be a good leader. He feared and trusted God. This was shown in the report he presented. Moses ordained him by laying his hands upon him. All right, this is exactly what it is. Now, quickly, let's look at how Joshua takes over leadership of Israel. All right, how Joshua take over leadership of Israel. Shortly after the death of Moses, the Lord called Joshua and assured him of victory and success in his leadership assignment. He further advised Joshua on the way he should walk in order to have good success. So God taught Joshua, all right, and says, "This book of the Lord shall not depart out of your mouth, but thou shalt meditate day and night, that you may be careful, all right, to do according to all, okay, that is written in it. For thou shalt make your way prosperous, and you shall have good success." Now, you can find this in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, from verse 8. God instructed Joshua on his new assignment, which was leading the Israelites across the river Jordan to take possession of the land. Now, the city of Jericho was their target. All right. Now, the city of Jericho had been shut up from within because of the people of Israel. Nobody in the city went in or went out. Now, let's look at the conquest of Jericho. Now, God gave Joshua a master plan for the capture of Jericho, which was strictly adhered to by him. Now, the assault started with a procession led by armed men of war, followed by 7 priests with 7 trumpets, while another group of priests formed the rear guard bearing the ark of the Lord. Now, simultaneously, the trumpet blew continuously as the procession marched around the city of Jericho once a day for 6 days. Now, after each march, they came into the camp and spent the night there. Now, there they warned not to shout until Joshua gave them the order to do so. On the 7th day, they rose early and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. At the 7th or 70th time, 7th time, okay, when the priest had blown the trumpet, that's the trumpet, oh God, the horn. All right, Joshua commanded the people to shout, adding that the Lord had given them the city. Immediately the people shouted, and the trumpet were blown. As soon as the people heard the trumpet, they raised a great shout, and the walls fell down flat. That's the walls of Jericho, okay, came down, okay, crashing. And the people went straight into the city and took it. And Joshua then instructed the people to destroy the city with fire. And of course, now it is important that you also take note of something here, which is quickly, okay, with fire. This was done, but Rahab the harlot was spared. The two spies, together with their household, okay, were not destroyed. Also, precious stones like gold, silver, and the vessel of bronze were kept in the Lord's treasury. Now, I want you to understand this quickly here. All right, that prior to Israel going in, okay, to destroy the city of Jericho and overtake the city or capture the city, two spies were sent by Joshua to go spy the land of Jericho, just the same way Moses did send out 12 spies. You see, Joshua was a leader just like Moses, because he instructed the people to obey the Ten Commandments just like Moses did, and he equally sent out spies just like Moses did. He also divided River Jordan just like Moses divided the Red Sea. Now you take note of all the similarities between the leadership of Moses and that of Joshua. Now the two spies got to Jordan and they met a woman called Rahab. Rahab was an harlot in Jericho. All right, they got to Jericho, and the king of Jericho noticed that some spies, Israel spies, had come in to spy their land, the land of Jericho. So he sent his army to go fetch them from the house of Rahab, because the house of Rahab was just at the boundary of the city's wall. All right, was just at the boundary of the city's wall. So Rahab quickly hid these two spies that Joshua had sent down to spy Jericho. And when the armies came, Rahab said to them, "Yes, indeed, these men came here, but I don't know who they are." So when the city gate was about to be shut down, they quickly ran out again. So go quickly after them. Perhaps you just capture up with them. So those security men or those military men from the king of Jericho actually left, thinking that it was true. So Rahab went back inside and called the spies and made a covenant with them that if they would spare her and her household, that the fear of the God of Israel has entered the heart of all the people of Jericho, and now they are all fainted. Okay, their spirit have left them. They are all afraid and they are scared of the people of Israel. But however, if Israel will spare her and her household, her father, her mother, and her children, then yes, they would follow them and they will keep their secret. So they made a covenant with her, and they instructed Rahab the harlot to take a scarlet, okay, cord, and put it by the window. All right, to put a scarlet cord by the window of a house, so that when they come to destroy the land or the city of Jericho, her life will be spared. But if they don't see that scarlet, which is the red cord, she will be destroyed and consumed. And anybody just goes out of the house, they will destroy them. So this was how Rahab and her household was spared. Now, prior to the people of Israel taking over Jericho, also is also important. Now you could see there where the priest carrying the ark, the horn was being blown there. The horn of the ram was blown, and the walls of Jericho came down crashing just like that. All right, by the power of God. Now it's important. Another significant or similarity between Moses, or the leadership of Moses, and that of Joshua, is the fact that Moses encountered God, where the Spirit of God, an angel in the form of a burning bush, talking to him and telling him to remove his sandals, that where he was on holy ground. The same thing, Joshua equally encountered an angel of the Lord, an angel of the host of the army of God, came to Joshua and told him to remove his sandals, that where he was on holy ground. Joshua did ask if he was for them or against their enemy, or he was with their enemy, and he says he's with the Lord. All right. And the army and the angel of the Lord was the one that gave him the instruction on the strategy, the special plan on how to bring down the walls of Jericho. All right. Now, quickly, you can see there that was the Rahab's house and the red scarlet being let down through the window there. Now, you saw that even though God had brought down all the walls of Jericho, the house of Rahab was preserved now because of the covenant that they had with the two spies that were sent by Joshua. God is a covenant keeping God, and he always keeps his promises to his people. All right, it's important that you know that. All right, Joshua, however, rededicated, okay, the Israelites to the service of God. When Joshua was about to die like Moses, he rededicated the people to the service of God. Now the people promised never to serve any other God, and then Joshua made a covenant with them to keep the statutes and ordinances. Now after this, Joshua wrote everything down in the book of the law of God. He died at the age of 110. Okay, while Joshua succeeded Moses. Why did Joshua truly succeeded Moses? Joshua succeeded Moses because he was courageous, okay, and he had strong faith in God, okay. He demonstrated, and this also could also be seen as the quality of the leader Joshua. All right, he was strong, he was a courageous man, okay. He demonstrated this by the speech he made to the Israelites when Moses sent them to spy the promised land. You can find that in Exodus actually 14 verse 19 actually. All right, like Moses, he followed detailed instructions of God, and of course God always warned him beforehand. Joshua 1 verse 8, you see that there. Joshua demonstrated this in his conquest of Jericho. He was prepared to obey God's instructions, and this made him succeeded or succeed as a leader. All right, it's important that we take note of all of this. He was a level-headed and prepared to learn and follow the footsteps of his predecessor Moses. Just as Moses spied Canaan, he too first all spied Jericho before attacking the city. Again, like Moses, before his death, he rededicated the people to the service of God.
Thousands to move from their encampment to the banks of the Jordan. Meanwhile, Joshua decided to send men ahead to spy out the land, especially the city of Jericho, which lay just beyond the river.
Find out how strong the city is, the size of its walls, and the number of its soldiers. For we must take Jericho before we can go any farther into the land of Canaan. Now go, and God be with you, and bring you back safely.
The spies were careful. Nevertheless, they were seen entering a certain house in Jericho, and soldiers hurried there to capture them. A woman named Rahab lived in that house, and the soldiers spoke roughly to her.
Bring out the men who came to your house. They are spies.
Some men did come to me, but I did not know where they were from. And just about the time the gate was to be closed after dark, the men went off. If you hurry, you can catch up with them.
But it was God's will that the spies should not be captured. Rahab had hidden them in a safe place. Then Rahab explained to Joshua's men why she had helped them.
I know that your Lord has taken our country, and that everybody is afraid of you. There is no courage left in any of us, because the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. We've heard how your God dried up the waters of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt. Now swear to me before your God that as I have been kind to you, you will also be kind to me, and save my mother and my father and all my family.
Our lives for yours. If you'll not tell why we came here, we'll treat you kindly when the Lord gives us this country.
The spies promised that they would spare Rahab and her family when Jericho was attacked. The scarlet cord hung in her window would mark the house as that of a friend. With Rahab's help, the spies safely escaped from Jericho and hurried back to Joshua with their report that the whole country feared the people of the Lord. At last the day came to enter Canaan. Confidently, Joshua urged the people to go forward. The rushing waters of the river Jordan did not frighten him, for God had told him what to do. As the Lord had commanded, Joshua told the priests to go first, carrying the Ark of the Covenant. And as the priests stepped into the river Jordan, a wonderful thing happened. Just as at the Red Sea, so here too, God provided a dry path for his people. As long as the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant remained in the riverbed, the waters to the right of them stood as a wall. At God's command, Joshua set up stones on the other side of the Jordan near their camp at Gilgal to remind the people of how the Lord had again helped them by his mighty power. One man from each of the 12 tribes of Israel had brought a stone from the riverbed over which they had passed. And Joshua spoke to the people.
When your children, in time to come, ask their fathers, what do these stones mean? Then you shall tell them, the Israelites crossed over this Jordan on dry ground. The Lord, your God, dried up the waters of the stream, just as the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Red Sea. He wants all the people of the world to know how mighty his hand is, and he wants you to fear him forever.
Now the gate of the city of Jericho was shut up tightly. No one came out or went in, for the people of Jericho were afraid of attack from the army of Israelites camped outside the city. And when Joshua went out to look at the city and saw the great walls, he wondered how they would ever be able to take the city. But as he stood there in deep thought, he suddenly saw someone near him. It was a man dressed like a soldier and carrying a bright sword in his hand. So Joshua questioned him.
Are you one of us or one of our enemies? Neither. I am the captain of the Lord's army.
What does my Lord have to say to his servant?
Take off your shoes, for the place where you are kneeling is holy.
Joshua quickly obeyed his heavenly visitor. And then, as he listened, the Lord made known his plan for taking Jericho, a plan which Joshua followed when he attacked the city. The next day, when the people of Jericho looked out of their windows, they saw a strange procession moving around the walls of the city. First came a company of armed men marching along silently. Then came 7 priests, and behind them came more priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant. Then came more soldiers, but they made no move to attack the city. It was all very strange. They were marching silently around the city with no noise but the sound of their feet on the ground. Once around the great stone wall they marched. Then they returned to their camp at Gilgal. The people of Jericho were puzzled and afraid. Why didn't the Israelites attack the town? What did they mean by this strange silent march around the city? When the Israelites had marched around Jericho every day for 6 days without any harm coming to the city, some of the people of Jericho began to ridicule their enemy. But Rahab was certain that the Israelites would soon capture Jericho. So she hung a scarlet cord in her window as Joshua's spies had told her to do. On the 7th day, the people of Israel marched around the city again, not once, but 7 times. The 7th time, the priests blew loudly on their horns. And Joshua cried out to his people and said, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." Then all the people made a great noise, and at the sound, the walls of Jericho began to fall. The Israelites rushed into Jericho and took the city. But Rahab and her family were spared, as the Israelites had promised.